two, 1, 2, 3.
There are books that are good, there are books that are bad. There's some books so fucking awful you wish you never had read them at all, 'cause a novel can ruin your life. Hey buddy, I don't even own a television.
Welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television. It's a podcast about bad books. I'm your host, J.W. Friedman.
I'm Chris Collision, and we have a guest.
We do, and it is Lemon from the almighty F+. How are you doing?
I feel like almighty might be overselling it, but, thanks.
You have a nicer website than we do, so...
Well, yeah, it's a lot of obsession, though, on my part.
Oh.
I like CSS.
And don't think we don't hate you for it.
Anyway, though...
Podcasting is a zero-sum game, man.
It is. It's
That's true, because everyone gets $0 in podcasting.
Are you guys going to the rooftop podcast battle later? Because I'm the reigning champ. So anyway, yeah, we've brought you here today for the dubious honor of discussing a book by the infamous Diablo Cody entitled Candy Girl, A Year in the Life of an Unlikely Stripper. So it should be mentioned right up top, this discussion is probably going to get a bit explicit at times.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way to avoid that.
Yeah.
So get ready, folks.
Yeah, there's gonna be talk of tits, there's gonna be talk of cum, and then that over and over. Kind of that in repeat, I would imagine.
Yeah, and clever nicknames for both because there's so many of them in this book.
The first book I ever finished that read like it was written by Fozzie Bear.
Ooh, man, yeah, definitely. There's so much like
image.
elbow in the ribs throughout this book. Like, hey, do you get it? And it's it's bad.
Yeah, literally every sentence could end comma waka waka.
Yeah. For sure. But before we get any further, I think it's important that the people at home know what we're talking about. So let's go ahead and do a plot in 60 seconds.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so you will have 60 seconds to summarize this song. Please begin.
Okay, so there's a woman named Diablo Cody, as far as this book is concerned. She moves to Minneapolis. She gets a job as a copywriter at a downtown agency. For no reason at all, she does an amateur night at a strip club, and then she works as a stripper there. Then she works at a different strip club where she learns nothing and talks about herself. Then she works at a different strip club where she learns nothing and talks about herself. She works at a different strip club where she learns nothing and talks about herself. Then she works in a masturbation booth, learns nothing, talks about herself, and at the end of the whole thing, she decides that the sex industry is somewhat dehumanizing to women.
There you go.
I don't want to oversell it. That may be the most successful plot in 60 seconds we've ever had.
To be fair, this book is kind of a softball pitch, though. So. But congratulations, nonetheless. Not to diminish your achievement here.
No, I worked on that.
That was
and it shows.
It was concise and tight. Insert vaginal pun here.
Yeah.
To keep in theme with the book. Do you get it? We're talking about body parts.
Waka waka. And not just the kind that you put in your Chuck Taylors.
So, before we get to... Oh, God, yeah, there's so much, like, name-checking of... Fuck, dog. Oh, man. There's so much name-checking of my loud-ass dog in here, except there's not. What I was going to say is brand names, just like... The point that jumped out at me is that I was quaking in my Chuck Taylors was a particularly great line that I loved.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, sorry.
And there's nothing wrong with wearing Chuck Taylors. It's just not that interesting to talk about, and it's not inherently meaningful. That's the big problem. It's just this over and over and over again display of signifiers for no real purpose other than to say, remember this thing.
No, in the confines of this book, I feel like the Chuck Taylors are important because the point that this book hits over and over again is that every stripper in the world is blonde and pretty and dumb and has fake tits, but I completely uniquely, think that Betty Page is an idol, and I wear Chuck Taylors, and I have tattoos. So, I'm the most unique stripper in the entire world.
Yeah, like no other stripper ever. I want to talk about that. This may be jumping ahead a little bit.
It is, but I'll allow it.
Okay, but I think that you're, 2/3 right about all strippers are blonde and perky and Barbie doll-like. She says Barbie doll a lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
but there's also a whole slew of them who are ethnically different than Diablo Cody. And they get the shortest possible end of the descriptive stick in this. It is incredibly gross. I think Diablo Cody most charitably would be described as having some blind spots around race and class.
I want to get into this in detail more later.
Totally.
So let's table this for now, because I think that this kind of falls into something that Lemon had mentioned to me in emails, which I think a lot of it is this book has credibility problems. And I think before we get too much into the plot, I kind of want to address the fact that you, Mr. Lemon, are from Minneapolis, the city that this book is about, and I know that you've taken some issue with the portrayal of the location itself. So I was curious if you want to elaborate on that at all.
So I'm a longtime citizen of Minneapolis. I like it here, and so reading a book that's kind of like about Minneapolis is sort of unique. It doesn't happen that often, and so it's like name checked, and so I know like various places that are being name checked in it. However, and this is like I had an entire highlighter color for this, but eventually I gave up because I felt like, okay, I've done enough research into this, but there's no, like, her portrayal of Minneapolis is not only is it insane and untrue, but also it's like clearly untrue, because like she like was a writer for the City Pages, which is kind of like Minneapolis's version of like, you know, Village Voice or The Stranger.
Yeah, it's the free weekly, right?
Yeah, it's the free weekly, and so you know it's a metropolitan area, and so anytime like there's an idea of space to this thing, it's like it's a city that like lives inside of a casserole, but it's also like 100 degrees below zero. At one point, she talks about being in a strip club. And there's men in parkas and balaclavas. No, there aren't. No, a strip club has bouncers, and if a man in a balaclava says, "Can I come to the strip club, please?" It's that guy's job pretty distinctly to say, "No, I'm sorry, you can't."
I'm sorry, Mr. Kidnapper, you are not allowed in the premises.
I too have what I consider an incredible, rich source of knowledge about Minneapolis, St. Paul, which is that I spent 2.5 days there 20-some years ago.
And
I love Husker Du.
They have a big mall.
I would know. I'm the kind of person who goes to malls a lot. I more go to like independently owned small stores. Yeah, but I just want to say, as somebody who knows exactly one thing about Minneapolis, which is that it gets fucking cold and there's snow.
Yeah.
Chuck Taylors are a bad footwear choice.
There you go. I would say that, the impression I got of the city just purely, and I have friends who live in Minneapolis and love it, and it seems like a very cool place. But if I knew nothing about that, reading this book, I would get the impression that like pretty much the entire population is made up of like, say, like middle-aged couples who like are really into polka music and eating sausages. Kind of like, you know, like Green Bay Packers like booster club, but citywide. And that doesn't seem like that's really very realistic to me.
That is, again, and that is completely the impression given. And you know, I mean, it's a city of 500,000 people. Like it's, you know, it's willfully misleading.
I think that's right, and I think, you know, one of the few things that we know about Minneapolis at this point, it has like one of the largest Somali immigrant communities in the country. This is not just a white bread thing, and the book reads like Fargo fan fiction for large parts of it.
Totally. Yeah, I think what really hammered this home to me is the fact that, I mean, I'm sure everybody listening to this knows who Diablo Cody is from a screenwriting perspective. This book was kind of, I guess, in a way, her breakout.
Yeah. It put her on the map.
What really strikes me as kind of unavoidable when talking about this book is how much of it is just obvious myth making. Like, it really does seem like in order for her to portray herself as the kind of character she wanted to, the town that she did this in had to be as backwards as possible so that she could really, you know, like challenge the values and shake their perceptions to the core, quote unquote.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It's just like one big brand pamphlet.
Yeah, totally.
For the Diablo Cody brand.
There should be like logo usage guidelines.
Oh my God, I'm sure that there are. I mean, one thing I wanted to say about this book is that it reeks of padding. There are 2 chapters at the end that are obviously tacked on for what really feel like word count reasons. And those
we should come back to that because fuck.
Yeah, I want to get back
read
to
a
the last
book?
couple chapters too. But yeah.
But I think it might be a good time to mention is it a good time to mention like how completely off like the musical reference name drops are?
Yes. Yeah. Perfect.
This leads us to a segment that I've been penciling in my head as a little Def Lepp-splaining.
Def Lepp-splaining. Awesome. Yeah, because they're fucked up. Continue.
Yeah.
So there was a point where, so I pitched this book to you because, I knew who Diablo Cody was. I kind of knew she was capable of. I kind of assumed it would be crap, and then you were like, sure, and then I was like, fuck, now I have to read this thing, and so I buy it, and then the first thing that I thought was like, oh shit, I don't want to intentionally go into this book like with a highlighter in my hand looking for crap. That's unfair.
No.
That's unfair to the subject matter. I don't want to do that. And I was like, well, if it's okay, then, it's going to be okay. And so I had to kind of baseline like my expectations. Then I got to page 4. Where there's the line, love is mysterious and rad, like Steve Perry from Journey.
Yeah, Steve Perry's not that mysterious. I'm a big Giants fan. I've been to a lot of Giants games. He's always there. He's always singing on camera. The mysterious
dude
thing
likes
about
pussy.
Steve
I don't know
Perry
what's mysterious about that.
The mysterious thing I would say about Steve Perry is what happened to his dignity.
Right.
But anyway.
What's very, very, very funny about that is I was trying to find a 1-sentence thing to read as the cold open, and that was the sentence.
There you go.
Because it just leaps off the page in its.
But then that sets a baseline of expectations, and music's name dropped all over the book, and it's almost surprising that this could be written by one person because the musical references would not come out of the same hand.
That is so true.
So there's the Journey thing. 2 pages later is a heavy reference to Kim Gordon and Kim Deal.
Oh, right. Fuck that line. Yeah.
Later on, she's talking about how I need to get money so that I can buy more Frank Zappa records.
Right.
Yeah.
What?
How
old are you?
The second page is that god awful. I met my boyfriend on the worldwide waste of time, waka waka.
Trading fucking Beach Boys bootlegs.
Exactly. So I think that we can kind of take a step back from this specific thing and note that the credibility problems are endemic. At no point does she sound like she knows what the fuck she's talking about, whether she's talking about strip clubs, whether she's talking about other human beings, which I posit are not actually real to her.
It doesn't happen that frequently in the book.
There's no human beings in this book.
Everybody talks exactly like Diablo Cody, for one thing.
That's true of her movies,
whether she's talking about music, whether she's talking about fashion, it's just all this signifier as punchline reference deployment bullshit.
Yeah. The Kim Deal, Kim Gordon thing, I just want to elaborate on a little bit here. I don't have it highlighted, but basically...
Oh, I do.
Oh, why don't you hit us with it? Because
I please?
Yes, this was the line that made me realize I hate this book. I was really trying to be open-minded about this because, I don't want to, like you said, I don't want to come into it being a jerk. But, this was when my good faith went out the window, so please.
Okay, so I felt sore about the rejection, and my base soon acquired a thick patina of dust, which was really crappy because I had been looking forward to posturing on stage like Kim Gordon or Kim Deal or any of the assorted lank-haired bassists named Kim who had been in my heroines as a teen. There are so many, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know at that point that I'd wind up fingering for an audience countless times in the coming year, though not under the circumstances I'd imagined. I did peel to a Pixies song on several occasions, so things came full circle, I guess. Thank you, Frank Black, for allowing me to indirectly reference Un Chien Andalou in the least intellectual environment ever.
Okay, so first I just want to jump in, and that means if this is true, she's stripped to debaser,
right.
Which would be one of the most depressing things I could imagine seeing in
She
the
mentioned
real
that she
world.
strips to Morrissey at one point.
Right.
But also, All right, I love the Pixies.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty snobby guy about music, but I still love the Pixies. But I will say that referring to them as the most intellectual way to reference Un Chien Andalou is a little silly. I've heard debaser at keg parties where guys were like fucking doing beer bongs. So
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
It's a good thing to drunkenly shout.
Yeah.
So maybe we should back up as well and say that politically, I don't think any of us are pushing back on Diablo Cody or stripping or sex work or whatever. Like,
I just hate this book.
we just hate this book.
Yeah.
No, I think that's an important point to make for sure. In that, like, yeah, it's not like I'm coming into this even like ready to hate it because it's like, oh God, it's a book about a stripper and why would this lady want to do that or anything like that. I think it's more just the way that this entire story is told from front to back just really reads like a fucking pamphlet about how cool and subversive Diablo Cody is, and it's infuriating in so many ways.
It's a book that's devoid of motivation.
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, even the closest glimpse you get into her motivation for this journey was just like, yeah, I thought it would be kind of fun or whatever, you know, freak out some people. It feels very Generation X in a really dated way.
Although that lack is really pointed because 2 or 3 times she has a cursory conversation with her boyfriend then husband saying, I don't know why, but I'm not done with this. And if it were being described interestingly or well by or about a character you gave a shit about, it would be interesting. It would be this sort of almost compulsive behavior, or it would be this strange allure or fascination. But since she is glib and incapable of insight into self or others, all it comes across as is completely unmotivated behavior that smells like she is just doing it as a stunt. It really reads like a stunt book. Like,
exactly.
I lived as a vegan for a year. Read my book.
Can I give you the closest thing that I found to a motivation? I have this highlighted. Because I'd always been a well-behaved human female, I'd never ridden a motorcycle, not even a weak Japanese one. I'd never gotten knocked up or vacuum aspirated. I've received every available Catholic sacrament with the exception of matrimony or last rites. I'd completed in college in 8 tidy semesters, 1 nervous breakdown per. I'd never thrown a glass of delirium tremens in anyone's face. I'd never even 5-fingered a lipstick at the Ben Franklin. I was a drag, baby. I could feel my wild oats dwindling. My mid-20s crisis weighted my gut like a double cosmic cheerleader. I guess that's one reason I ended up half naked at the Skyway Lounge.
Yeah, I mean, that is about as close as you get.
And that's thin fucking gruel.
It is. I mean, it's basically like a teen rebellion story being told by someone in their mid-20s, and it's uncomfortable in so many ways because of it, because there's just this, I can't think of a nicer way to describe it other than there's an overarching sense of like, fuck you, mom and dad throughout this entire book that is impossible to escape. And in a lot of ways it gets ugly, and we're going to get more into that later. And I'm sure some people right now listening to this are wondering why there's so much vitriol about this book, where a lady describes her foray into sex work. But I think we may be able to elucidate on that a little bit more moving ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you're not on our side, you're gonna come on our side. Yeah, because we're gonna eventually read more of this book, and then you're gonna be sold.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. That said, if there is anybody out there, particularly of the female persuasion, with firsthand knowledge about this industry who has also read this book, who wants to write in, that would be fascinating. I would be very interested in that perspective. I think there would be a lot to learn there.
No, definitely. And we need to go to break here in a second, but I do, just to speak to what you just said, I agree 100%. I think I was honestly maybe a little bit generous coming into this book just because there was so much kind of what I expected to be inside knowledge about a world that I knew nothing about.
Right.
But unfortunately, it becomes very clear early on that a lot of it is fabrication and utter bullshit. And so we'll get into that here in a minute, but we're going to take a break and be right back. So please stick around.
Do it.
All right.
Yeah.
welcome back to I Don't Even Own a Television. This is a podcast about books. I am J.W. Friedman.
I'm Chris Collision.
And
I'm Lemon.
Hey, there you are. I was about to introduce you, but you were proactive, and that's better.
Fuck that.
That's exactly my opinion about the book we're discussing today, Candy Girl, by the one, the only, Diablo, quote-unquote, Juno Cody. Yeah, so before we really get into nitpicking even more than we have about particular passages of this book, I just want to do a quick rundown in case you're curious about the journey the character takes on this, because it's quite a journey. Basically, our hero moves to Minneapolis, becomes a stripper, and as was discussed in the plot in 60 seconds, a lot of movement between clubs happens. She starts to decide maybe this isn't for her. She stops. She joins a peep show booth. Then eventually she becomes a phone sex operator, and then that's really not described at all, and then that's the end of the book. Yeah. So just in case people at home were like, hey, you guys aren't really talking about what happens in the book at all, now we have. Yeah, not much.
But in going from one to the other, like it's not like she... Like, for example, the transition, because it's like, I think it's like 4 strip clubs and then the sex world peep booths. Like, she doesn't go she doesn't go, oh, you know, stripping's not for me. Maybe masturbating in front of strangers is more fun. Like, that's not a discussion that's had. It's like, it's like, well, next chapter.
That's totally true. And the thing, like, we talked about the tacked on chapters at the end, and this is what really bugged me, is that the very last chapter of this book, she transitions from working in a peep show to becoming a phone sex operator. And I found that the most fascinating part of the book. And it is given about 4 pages. Yeah. And then it just ends. And
but because you incorrectly say that that's the last chapter of the book, forgetting the 2 chapters of garbage that come after that.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
Because what do you want to read, like, right after you go strip club, peep show booth, phone sex operator? That's exactly the chapter that you go, let me tell you about my childhood now.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Oh, great, a flashback.
The phone sex thing, I think, also... while being one of the more fascinating parts of the book, definitely kind of sheds light on the credibility problems that we were talking about here, and that her boss in the phone sex job doesn't talk like a human being, but is presented in quotes in really, really gross ways. I'm trying to find the highlight I have. I mean, there's literally... Okay, sorry.
I was just going to say, while you're finding that, not one character does. The phoniest moment in a book full of them has to be this weird, bad interview-like thing where this black woman explains prostitution to her while they're taking a break from the peep show. Yeah. And it just reads like the worst free weekly feature on prostitution ever. Like, the character is not talking like a human being. She's presenting everything in this incredibly neat bow with like good paragraph structure.
It's a fucking procedural.
Exactly. And it does. No human has ever encapsulated their life story like that over a cup of coffee during a break at work.
Well, we haven't even gotten into yet like the weird perception of power dynamics that always occur in this book when Diablo Cody is describing anybody who isn't middle class and white. So I don't want to get into that just yet. Okay. I want to put that off because I did want to read. I was talking about the credibility problems here in the phone sex thing, in that apparently, according to the author, at one point her actual manager told her on the phone that Barely Legal was the most popular offering for phone sex because, quote unquote, men like 'em young, dumb, and thirsty for cum. And this is described as being said by a woman named Andrea in a splenda sweet southern drawl, which, like, that doesn't happen at a job interview. Like, and beyond that, that's a fucking catchphrase. That's like from the cover of like a porn movie or something. Like, people don't talk like that. I don't know.
And 2 pages earlier, that woman is described as like not wanting to use the word cock.
That's totally true, too. Yeah, I mean, she's presented as this very, like, kind of, you know, I don't know, man. It's all stereotypes, you know, like the stereotypical like Southern school marm lady that's like older that like, oh my God, it's so surprising she works in the sex business or something.
It's all stereotypes because everything is going for the laugh line. There can't be any insight. There can't be any empathy because everything's got to be this witty, punched up, bullshit hipster speak.
I agree with that, and I'd also say that there's the dueling motivation of nobody in this book can seem more like aware of their surroundings or more clued into what's going on than the author can.
I think that's the core of the book right there. I think that's 100% of her problem. There's this passage where she's talking about the Post-it notes left by her supervisor, and she's making fun of the grammar, and she's making fun of the bad spelling, and it's all in all caps. And then a couple pages later, she's like, she was a beat poet and didn't even know it. At that point, I really did lose my temper at the book because she is explicitly a writer with a real job who's just moonlighting doing this, and she does not extend that possibility to anybody else. Every other dancer, every other worker in this book is a one-dimensional person who exists only to do the thing that she knows about. She says like 2 separate times she hears somebody talking about something mundane, like a stripper talking about something mundane like yard care or insurance premiums or something, and she says explicitly it blew her mind both times. Why? Because this is a human fucking being?
No, I mean, that's exactly it. It's an anecdote delivery system, and a lot of the anecdotes just feel fake, and that makes it really hard to get on board with.
Yep.
One of the things I explicitly wanted to mention is that one of the first times she goes to do an amateur night, it's really played up for laughs that one of the fellow dancers that she signs up with asks her to read the application form to her because
Holy
she
shit.
can't read.
That page is literally open on my screen right now.
And I mean, this is played for laughs. Like, you're supposed to crack up and be like, oh my God, look at how stupid this lady is.
Yeah.
And it's like, meanwhile, you have an author here who's talking about a situation that is filled with fucking potential pathos and all sorts of commentary and just doesn't see any of this and is instead like so focused on, look at how much dumber this lady is than me. Plus, I don't believe it ever happened. So
I know it didn't happen because it opens with that character used in the loosest possible sense. One of the contestants, a drunk Venus Williams lookalike who called herself...
God.
Now, I want to say a couple things. I haven't been to Minneapolis in a long time, but I know what Venus Williams looks like. And I've seen a lot of human beings. Yep. There are not a lot of Venus Williams lookalikes.
No, it means that she was a black woman with cornrows. That's exactly what it means.
And possibly a black woman of tallness. You know, that's like all that could possibly mean.
Yeah, if your strip club had a Venus Williams lookalike, you'd probably be doing all right. I'm just saying. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, so yeah. I mean, we understand. Us three in this recording understand. People that are listening probably understand that we're urbane people, and we understand that like people end up in sex industry careers or whatever careers that they have from different things. And that it's not unusual for somebody who is, a college graduate or a feminist or whatever to end up in a sex industry role for whatever reason becomes them. And that in no way does it come up. Like I cannot think of a time that she does not deal with another like plastic cutout of a woman that comes by and does not mention that she has fake tits.
Right.
Yeah, that's totally true.
And then it's just delivery lines like for this is just one I really had to get to, which is that so a stripper comes up to her and says, "Gotta smoke?" she asked me, and then her repartee is, "I don't smoke. I apologized. I just drink tons." Fuck you!
Seriously.
Actually,
so you don't have a smoke? Do I really need that?
I'll defend that. I thought that was supposed to be her inhabiting her persona in an uncomfortable situation, but I'm not going to argue that point more.
To me, it just felt like just another example in a litany of them throughout this book of just like, here's an opportunity to build my persona in this narrative, which is like, oh, I don't smoke. I just drink a shit ton because I'm fucking rock and roll. Did you see my Chuck Taylors?
Woo!
I uniquely identify with Betty Page.
Exactly.
I love obscure things like the Beach Boys.
What's really weird about it too is that one of the clubs she works at in this book is pretty much described as, you know, having a ton of kind of, you know, alternative looking dancers, you know, like girls with nose rings, and I forget how she describes them, but that's like completely glossed over the minute that she goes to work somewhere else, because I feel like she's worried that the reader is going to realize, you know, her whole shtick wasn't maybe quite as earth-shaking as she wants you to believe it was in Minnesota.
I guess the closest thing that we have to a narrative, because we do not have a narrative, but like the closest thing that we have to a narrative is that she starts out, so like I don't know, like she's kind of like self-conscious about her body, she's self-conscious about her breasts, like she's self-conscious about her face, and so she wants to. The closest thing that you have is that she wants to be a better stripper. And she gives you evidence of being a better stripper, of victimizing these men that come in there. Like, I'm going to rob them blind, right?
Right, but that happens like 85% of the way through the book.
That's true.
I think. I mean, because that was one of the things that stuck out to me. She kept complaining all the time about how it wasn't fulfilling and wasn't making her that much money, but I don't think she ever does ask herself explicitly, am I actually just not very good at this?
No, she does. She does because she owns up to
okay.
it. She owns up to it that she's like too interesting, because like there's these other
exactly
Barbie dolls
it.
that come over. They all have the fake tits. They all have the blonde hair. They're all really boring. And I don't have, but every man who works at a strip club, his name is Mustache.
Yeah,
Right.
That's the name for every man that works there, and all of the mustaches are like, you know, you're not one of those classic beauties. You're one of those 1950s kind of glamorized beauties, like you see on all the posters. And she's
Three
like,
or four people.
Sucks, dude. Makes me interesting.
3 or 4 people within the course of this book tell her that she looks intelligent, which I found really humorous.
I just want to jump back a little bit. As a mustached American, I found it slightly offensive and alienating, and I will be seeking reparations.
Mustache with a face around it.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I agree 100% about that. And like, yeah, I mean, what really just stuck out to me is kind of that continued, when she's talking about it, and her career and what she thinks about it, she really refuses to even admit that she enjoys it to herself throughout the narrative. And then at about 85% through was like, finally, once I realized that this is something I dug, I was good at it. It's like, holy fucking shit. Like, what an amazing epiphany. It's like, if you don't go into work every day making fun of the thing you do, you might enjoy it a little more. Like, I don't know. That just stuck out to me as such a weirdly, like, kind of postmodern, I guess not even postmodern, but just a sign of the times kind of thing, as someone like expressing surprise that they could actually enjoy something if they stopped being cynical about it, you know? Says the host of a podcast about bad books. Anyway.
I would like to talk a little bit about the prose itself for a second.
Yeah, let's do that.
Because it exerts this weird distancing effect. We've all talked about her relentless lack of self-awareness. We've talked about her total lack of empathy, or empathy with or understanding of any of the people that she interacts with. And that really comes through with the prose. It has this, I just wanted to ask you guys if you felt like weirdly distanced and alienated from everything just because of the sheer language that was used and the way everything was described. Like, just flipping to a random page, I see flesh stays taut and cool, private parts remain as fresh and florid as tuna sashimi. All the strip joints serve their blondes well chilled. You know,
I felt like I had a sense, like, as I was reading the thing, like, I had a sense of place, you know, like, as far as architecture and where this room is in relation to this room, like, I had a sense of that. I did not have a sense of people, and the thing that I would is that I really do like Bret Easton Ellis. Like, I think
That's
that
a
Bret Easton
controversial position.
That's a bold stance, my man.
But like, but that hook that he has of like, hey, this is fucking disgusting, human emotion, who needs it, but I did it anyway. You know, I cut her head off. That note that he hits is here as well, like, throughout, except for, like, it doesn't seem to satire anything.
Oh my god, yeah, totally. It's weirdly detached. And I feel like a lot of that maybe is because of some of the cynicism that she carried with her throughout the endeavor and the writing about it, for sure. But then there is just kind of this weirdly detached, almost like kind of sociopathic vibe to the writing where people don't exist in this book as human beings. They exist as like ways to augment the story that's already being told, which when you're dealing with nonfiction, that's pretty fucking thorny, man.
Yeah,
it's like literally dehumanizing.
Well, this is not nonfiction in any meaningful sense. I think we're all agreed on that.
Yeah, no.
Well, there is one character, because there's Diablo Cody, but there's one character in the book, and that character is her boyfriend, and her boyfriend is fucking creepy.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Tell me about
I got
what you did at
uncomfortable
work
every
today.
time there was a paragraph about her boyfriend.
At first, I was like down with it because I'm like, this is cool. He's being supportive. You know, she wants to be a dancer. He's being supportive with that. I understand that. But then as it goes on and on, it's more about like, you know, there's descriptions of them being in bed and him being like, tell me about like how that dude masturbated while you were playing with yourself in the peep show and stuff. And it's like, all right, man, you know, like even if that conversation did happen, probably not. You may want to keep that a little more private, or at least, you know, like let him write his own book about that. Because that shit was weird.
To offer a little bit of structure to this, Diablo Cody moves to Minneapolis because of the guy, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so they end up together in Minneapolis as a couple. The guy, I believe his name's Johnny. He has a daughter named Peanut. And the way that Diablo Cody like mentions the daughter is the way that you would talk about like a 4-foot cockroach that lived in your house.
Your roommate's shitty dog.
Just like, he like fed the thing, and then like he was up with it because she was crying about some bullshit.
That's totally it.
I want to push on that. She says explicitly toward the end that this little girl, who was only over 3 nights a week, woke up with night terrors every night.
Yeah, there's problems.
You know, like all little girls do.
Yeah.
She also does mention right before that that during the day she, quote, lives a life of stripperly sloth.
Right.
She refuses to do meal prep. She doesn't get out of her pajamas until she has to go get drunk and then go to work.
Yep.
And as somebody who has worked nights, as she does, that's not a description of being a stripper. That's a description of being depressed.
Yeah.
And a book written by a person with even the slightest self-awareness or interest in people might kind of drill down on that point and say, hey, a job is a job. This job does turn out to have certain costs to the person and the people who do it. And she hints at this. There's this moment where she just breaks down crying at work and walks out. Mm-hmm. And again, a different book written by a insightful, interesting person, that would have been a very meaningful thing. In this book, it's just, so you're going to retreat back to the house you just bought, your college degree, and the ability to walk into a white-collar job of your choice.
Yeah, no, I mean, I will definitely double down on that. I think that, like, in a lot of cases, I mean, those emotional moments worked for me to some extent because it made me think about, like, maybe kind of the realities of a life in this industry that I hadn't thought of before. Like, she definitely describes the weird inverted power dynamic of a strip club, which is something I had never really thought about, which is, you know, you have a room filled with guys who are generally considered undesirable, and then women are competing for their attention. And, like, the effect that would have on your mind as a performer there is, you know, that's undoubtedly, like, something that would be very interesting to talk about. Yeah. And so, like, every single one of these moments, I kept thinking we were going to get there, but we never get there because there's no real introspection happening at all. It's just more like, I was sad, then I went home and I ate some food and, like, drank a bunch because she's always talking about drinking. And then, like, the next day I went back to work and things were great. And it's like, why even write this book? That's what I don't get. Why write this book? Like, why does this book exist? There's nothing in it.
Because
she can write Juno later on.
Exactly.
So another reason why I really wanted to do this book is that, you know, in addition to, you know, being a Minneapolitan and, you know, knowing people who know Diablo Cody.
Oh man,
I can't. I'm not. No, never mind.
You realize you're off the Christmas card list now.
But like my first whatever creative job, I guess, was something that was sex industry adjacent, which was that like I worked for, and I know that you have them too, like the one like free weekly that like really like like it's mostly strip clubs and shit like that.
Oh yeah, like Exotica.
So that was my first job at the age of 18, was because I wanted to work for a magazine. Like that's what I found. Like that's what I worked in. And so there was a lot of kind of like early time, like in the strip clubs and stuff like that. Like, oh fuck, I hate this. I hate everything about this. and so so I've also like Diablo Cody, I have also spent a lot of time in strip clubs not liking it. But I felt like I walked away with something, and I'm really surprised that like the super obvious shit that's right there, like it's not for you.
Yeah. No, I can't agree more. One thing I did want to mention, we got to go to break here before, but you mentioned writing for the local weekly. I would like to inform you that not only do we have one of those, we have several, and one of them very recently had a Game Developers Conference edition, a GDC edition, which featured tons of cosplay babes, and it was the most awkward thing you could possibly imagine. So that has little to do with what we were talking about, but maybe count your blessings you don't write for them. So.
Oh, God. Somehow, living in the same area, I missed that, and I'm glad to do it.
I only knew this existed because when I worked downtown one day, I went to walk for lunch and someone had tipped over one of the free giveaway newspaper dispensers, and there was just piles and piles of like this magazine that featured a girl provocatively holding a Super Nintendo controller in the year 2015. So
I always look at those, like I always think I don't know, like it makes me happy. Like I think it's fun to look at. Like I remember, like that level of like desperation.
The publisher's like, what's gonna get people to fucking call us?
So for example, like the year that I quit the magazine that I worked for, I did too much. I did the layouts. I kind of did like the editorial control, like managed all the whatever. So I quit. And then the publisher had to decide what to do, because he had, however many pages of the magazine, and then there's however many pages that aren't strip club ads. Like, fuck, what am I going to do? Blank pages. So his idea, I got it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to, like, literally rip off articles from The Onion, like copy paste from browser to Quark.
Nice.
Things from The Onion, and then a lawyer called him up, and he was super surprised.
Oh man. So anyway, now that we've regaled you with some of our own behind-the-scenes sex industry tales,
it's really exciting.
It's probably a good time to go to break, and we'll be back, and we'll do some fun stuff. So get ready.
Take the skyway high above the busy little one-way. In my stupid hat and gloves at night, I lie awake wondering if I...
All right, welcome back to I Don't Even Own a Television, a podcast about exotic dancing. I'm your host, J.W. Friedman.
I'm famous exotic dancer Chris Collision.
I'm some guy named Lemon.
Yeah, what's up? We've been talking about this amazing book called Candy Girl, A Year in the Life of an Unlikely Stripper by Diablo Cody. I like to imagine that it's with an apostrophe like D'Angelo. And speaking
or like with a bunch of characters on top, like Chloe Savigny.
That's a good one, too. The most impossible name to type in Hollywood. But yeah, I think speaking of D'Angelo, it's probably a good time to segue into some discussion about strip club music. And luckily, we have been provided with Diablo Cody's top 10 and low 10 strip club songs. So let's start out with the best ones here. I know you have this section marked, correct, Lemon?
Oh, I most certainly do. So the 10 best strip clubs to strip to. If there were more of these kind of lists, I feel like this would be a little bit more, like, I don't know. I don't want to give notes because you're done with the book. You've moved on. You're doing the United States of Terra for an audience of nobody. But But
Dude, that hurt.
if this was like a stripper's handbook, I feel like this would be a much more entertaining read. But anyway, the 10 best strip clubs the 10 best songs to strip to. Now, number 1, this should be no surprise. That's the song that you're thinking about is the song that's in your head right now, and
That's
that
right.
of course is
Rain and
any
Blood.
hip swiveling R&B fuck jam.
Of course.
Oh, that song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she knows as much about black music as she does about black people.
Yeah. And she points out remix to Ignition.
Which, no. I love Ignition. There's nothing sexy about that song. That song is fun to, like, sing with your friends when you're drunk. Like, I can't imagine a suggestive, provocative moment occurring while Ignition is on because I'd be laughing the whole time. Being like, can I get a beep beep?
And it's got all the R. Kelly funk all over it, which is not a good...
Yeah, that too.
So then number 2, Purple Rain. Really? That's the Prince song you pick?
Mm-hmm.
Purple Rain. Then Honky Tonk Woman.
Yeah.
It's got cowbell.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can we jump back? One thing that's very, very relevant is that she says 2 or 3 times that most strip clubs cut songs off at the 3-minute mark.
Yeah, Purple
Yeah.
Rain is a weird choice.
Exactly. If you're going to cut Purple Rain off at the 3-minute mark, like I think you're still like halfway through the first verse.
It's the intro.
Like, yeah.
Number 4 is probably the most credible one on this list. Pour Some Sugar on Me.
That
I buy
should be number
I'm sure
1.
that's played at strip clubs all the time. Number 5, a song I'm unfamiliar with, but a band I'm familiar with, Amber by 311. And she goes on to say, this fluid stoner anthem is a favorite of midnight tokers at strip clubs everywhere. Mellow enough that even the most shit-faced dancer can make it through the song. Make it through the song and get back to her graphics bong without breaking a sweat. Pass the Fritos scoops, dude.
Man, so many signifiers just coming at you hot and heavy there. I do like to say that 311 I find really, really horrible. And I can't even imagine how this could happen, but apparently it does. Like, so, wow.
Their
weird.
name means public nudity, dude.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I was going to say I thought it meant weed, but that's 420.
Yeah.
That's 311's awesome side project, 420.
So next up,
did
a
they
song
not
by
think of that?
Lit. So Miserable by Lit. And she points out it's Miserable by Lit, but mostly because Pamela Anderson is in the video.
No, that's the song where the chorus
Probably
is "You make me completely miserable."
Wait, I don't get it.
It's so clever.
Lit had a second song after their first song.
They did, and for some reason this lives large in my memory, but the
Weird.
video, they were tiny, like microscopic dudes, and they were playing music, and they were on a giant life-size Pam Anderson. And the chorus of the song is this obnoxious wordplay where it's like, you make me completely miserable. I don't...
Waka Waka. That's actually in her, like, oeuvre.
I guess it kind of is, yeah. It's like a weird sex pun. But, yeah, who the fuck has ever listened to Lit and been like, yeah.
This has been Lit Talk with your hosts, Jay, Lemon, and Collision.
Yeah. It's been awesome, guys. I didn't mean to say that when I was drunk.
Next up, number 7, Backdoor Man by The Doors. At this point, you realize that perhaps the strip club patrons are more interested in lyrics to songs than they should be, because, like, that doesn't even have a beat.
No.
Yeah. No, that's totally, like, just put on there because it's like, butt pun.
Number 8, Back in Black. Okay, fair enough. Sure.
Any AC/DC song. I'll agree with that.
And to be honest,
okay.
it's You Shook Me All Night Long. Like,
That's
if you're going to
true.
pick only one AC/DC song
yeah.
off of Back in Black to strip to, it's going
Yeah.
to be You Shook Me All Night Long.
I agree.
But yeah, number 9, probably the most questionable one of this. I Touch Myself by the Divinals.
Yeah, that's weird and bad.
No!
Well, I think
No!
what you need to remember here, and we were talking a little bit about this off air, strip club DJs are not particularly creative, and they are mean.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So again, a beatless song with one joke, that sounds perfect to me.
The Divinals is a really interesting choice, though, just because everything about that song is so on the nose that it feels like parody to begin with.
Right.
And, like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to imagine in my mind, like, a steamy strip club scene that would contain that song, and I just keep getting these weird pictures of, like, Wachowski movies.
Like, you're gonna strip to, like, I mean, at that point, you're stripping to, like, She Bop.
Or I fell in love with a stripper.
Yeah, exactly.
Stacy's mom has got it going on.
My neck, my back.
Oh, man.
I bet that actually happens.
Thanks, Trina.
My pussy and my crack.
Those are the other words.
And then finally, Hash Pipe by Weezer.
Yeah, what the fuck? No.
All of the guys that are in the balaclavas in the strip club, they're
Love
super
the
into
Hash
getting
Pipe.
high and going and listen to Weezer.
You know, like, I could even remotely, like, you might be able to convince me there would be a market or an audience for people that would totally dig Weezer in the strip club, but not fucking Hash Pipe, dude.
And to be fair,
nobody
that market,
likes that song.
Yeah, and to be fair, that market is 98% people currently in Weezer.
That's true.
Well, or people that are currently on the Weezer cruise.
Like, number one, Hash Pipe. This worked incredibly well when Rivers Cuomo was in the audience. Oh, but moving on, let's do the bottom 10 because Diablo has also deigned to provide us with a list of the things you absolutely should not play when you're stripping. Surprisingly, none of them include yakety sax.
Which would be fucking amazing.
If you're a really fast stripper.
I'm spilling beer. Awesome. Now it's a party.
Yeah.
And we're doing mouth music of yakety sax, just like you at home demanded.
That's what people tuned in for.
Yeah, exactly.
I like this book shit, but hang on.
Could you guys like do some acapella? Fuck it. Oh man, I almost remembered his name. Boots Hamilton. Acapella Boots Hamilton.
Good pull.
Wow. People are right now taking their phones, putting them in front of a Coke can on a fence, and shooting guns at them.
Well, there's the 30-second fast forward button. You can just hit that a couple
That's true.
times. Yeah. Probably done with yakety sax at some point.
Before you skip, I'd just like to remind all of you that Boots Hamilton is the musician behind two incredible LPs called Yakety Sax and More Yakety Sax. So make sure to head on out to your local music provider and pick those up
Somewhere
ASAP.
out there is a guy that didn't hit the fast forward button, heard that fact, and went, "Oh, fuck you!"
Anyway, bottom 10. Let's do it.
Bottom 10, because as we mentioned earlier, nothing pads out a really thin book like some lists between chapters. 10 worst songs to strip to by Diablo Cody. 1. That Midnight Oil song about Aborigines.
I don't think Google exists. I don't think there's a way to find out.
No, I think that's a clever joke because Midnight Oil was very political.
It is very... Yes, they were political, but this encapsulates everything about the laziness of this fucking book and the hacky jokes that it'll go for. Like, she can't just say the name of the song and have you connect it in your head. Like, oh, that's about Aboriginal rights. That's actually, that would be a bad song to dance to. You know, she can't say, like, beds are burning or something.
Yeah.
Like, that's about rape. Like, no, it has to be, anyway. Fuck you, Diablo Cody.
We're making enemies. All right.
Number 2, Friday, I'm in Love by The Cure. Okay, that's probably fair. It's a good song, but it's a bit of a downer tune.
Can I also say how easy it is to pick 10 songs you should not strip to? Like this is
exactly. There's no like I don't want to spoil this for anybody listening, but there's no Ohm on this. There's no Sun O on this. There's no Slayer.
G.G. Allen does not show up once. Even though Hard Candy Cock is a very good song.
I gotta say, Diablo, I'm really disappointed. I read your list of songs not to strip to, and thank heavens for Little Boys by the Dwarves was not included.
And she says explicitly elsewhere in the book that she buys Frank Zappa records. That Frank Zappa is not on this list is a glaring omission.
Numbers 1 through 10 should be various Frank Zappa songs.
Diamanda Gallis.
Yeah. Right. Number 3, Hey Ya by Outkast.
That would be fine.
Oh, because it's too fast, though, she says.
It's too
like,
fast.
Oh, yeah, if only strippers did cocaine.
And then she said this incredibly stupid thing that I have to highlight. Besides, no one wants to be reminded of marital strife while your ass is in their face. Why do you think they're at the strip club,
That's a great point. I think most people who are returning customers of her, that's probably an issue that's at the front of their mind.
Yeah.
Again, like the backdoor man, who is parsing this shit?
Yeah,
That's true. I mean, Hey Ya, when I think about it, is fucking shake it like a Polaroid
Right.
picture.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Hey Ya is about something.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's like a fun song where they tell you to shake your ass. Like, the thought of, like, marital strife does not come into my head when I'm listening to that.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm just not as fucking intelligent as the author of this fine tome. Anyway.
Guilty as charged, friends. Number 4, Ice Ice Baby by Vanilla Ice. 5, Girls by Beastie Boys.
Durr! It doesn't have
no
a beat!
shit.
I just want to say that she has fundamentally misunderstood the role of the strip club DJ. The strip club DJ has the same job as the wedding DJ. That is not to play good music.
That's
that is
true.
not to play interesting music. That is to play music everybody knows and basically likes and can go do something to.
That's a very good point. Yeah. No, I'm sure I would have loved to been a fly on the wall during the conversations between Diablo and the DJ she worked with.
Oh, God. Yeah, you know for a fact that she tried at least twice. Like, no, but I mean, I just love the Velvet Underground, and I think The Gift would be a great choice right now.
Totally.
Anyway.
They were Chuck Taylors.
Yeah. Like, how about Rocky Erickson? Okay, 6, Anything by Britney Spears. And her explanation for this is that some old stripper, even older than Diablo Cody's
The villains
robust
of the
25
book.
years. Yeah, the villains of the book have already staked out the territory. 7,
No, that makes sense to me, because I'm like that at karaoke with Easy by the Commodores. If anybody else sings that fucking song, I'm out for blood. That's my jam.
yeah, but dude, I'm actually doing the Faith No More version.
Yeah, because I go, ooh, before the solo.
Exactly.
Deep pull. All right.
Why don't we hang out?
Come over, we got beer. 7, any Eminem song about matricide, quaaludes, or fatherhood.
Once
Yeah.
again, duh.
Boy, who would think that you would want to avoid Eminem anyway?
So I should strip to Without Me?
Yeah. What's the one where he talks about stuffing his wife in the trunk? That'll get these dudes hot and bothered.
I'm sure I've talked about this on the show before, but I was in kind of a sheltered place. Didn't really listen to the radio. Didn't know anything about Eminem. Picked up the record because I'd heard the name and was interested. I got the second one, but it turned out it was the censored version.
Oh, wow.
And the first song literally starts off, they said I couldn't rap about no more. They didn't say I couldn't rap about no more.
Yeah. What makes you think I won't? Tiller ain't working in her. Yeah, exactly.
It was
10
so
minutes of
great.
silence.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was like this Dada experiment. Anyway, Eminem digression over.
That's good. And let's make this the first and last.
Okay.
Yeah.
8, Eleanor by the Turtles. I know you adore this twee follow-up from
What
those
the fuck?
60s Los Angeles scenesters, but resist.
Yeah, you're speaking right to my heart. There,
Yeah,
Diablo.
exactly. Thanks for the cautionary tale, Diablo. I'm sure that all the aspiring exotic dancers out there will take your advice at heart and really resist the huge, massive pull they have to dance to a song by the Turtles.
Sisters of the Cloth. Really? Can I still strip to the zombies, though?
How do you guys feel about love?
9, Hotel California.
No shit.
And then she goes on to explain that she actually liked early Eagles, and then she has a completely gratuitous slam against the greatest American, Joe Walsh.
Yeah, you know what? Fuck you. Like, there's nothing good about the Eagles, and Joe Walsh was the closest thing to a point of light within that miserable pit of darkness.
Exactly.
Wow, this is getting so deep. Sorry.
So I know that of the three of us, I am definitely the one that would not. I'm definitely the least fan of the Eagles of the three of us. I know that.
Oh, I don't know if that's possible.
Is there a difference between early Eagles and later Eagles? Is it the same bowl of shit?
I mean, I guess it depends on what you mean by later Eagles and how many last tour evers you're referring to. But yeah, it's all pretty bad. I do like Joe Walsh just because he seems like a guy that I would like to smoke a joint with.
And believe me when I tell you that Joe Walsh would like to smoke a joint with you.
But
As long as you're paying.
Exactly.
by the same token, I'd also love to throw Don Henley off a bridge. So that's a different discussion altogether.
Wait. Did you ever see the thing where Don Henley was on stage with Mojo Nixon singing Don Henley Must Die?
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, that doesn't do anything for you. You still got to die.
Yeah, pretty much. He's awful. I grew up in Florida, and Don Henley moved there after his success. It was like a big preservationist there, but in the most like obnoxious, like rich, like out of touch dude way possible, where he'd do like local kind of, I guess they're infomercials, but this predated infomercials in the 80s. But you'd turn on your TV and Don Henley would be playing like acoustic guitar and then stop and be like, oh hey, I just wanted to tell you about the Everglades and shit. So that's what I associate him with in my mind, and he's awful.
Hey Chris, what's the last song on this list? Because I'm sure it's a super intelligent song to strip to. Really just rock the crowd.
The More You Ignore Me, The Closer I Get by Morrissey.
Of course. That's right up on my list, right next to fucking Don't Stand So Close to Me by the Police and lots of other creepy sex anthems.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a list.
So we have dramatic readings. I think we should do them. Here is a song.
Dramatic readings. We're gonna make it sound recorded. Dramatic readings. Yeah, I got some words for you.
All right, so we're going to do dramatic readings where we read parts of this book to you. Lemon, would you like to go first?
I would love to go first. Oh, I've had this section. Okay, I've annoyed friends with this section, and now I get to annoy a broader audience with this section.
I should ask, do you guys kind of pre-annoy people with your dramatic readings? Like if you're reading the book?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Me too.
Next time Santa is on.
I was over at a dinner party because I had this book for a couple weeks before this recording now, and I was over at a dinner party and I kept whipping out the tablet to read sections. At one point, I went to pee and I came back and I was like, "Oh, where'd the tablet go?" And they're like, "Oh, you'll get it when you come back." Like, when you're ready to leave, you can get your tablet back, no problem.
You're not allowed to read from this nonsense anymore.
You know what you did.
But this is a safe space, so go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is okay. So this is actually the moment where she decides she's going to become the best stripper. So she's been working at different clubs. Now it's time to be the Ubermensch of strippers. And now is the time for a change. And to help her with that change, she consults with her boyfriend, who, in ways that we haven't bothered to get into, is fucking creepy. Anyway, okay, so it wasn't enough to be a nude girl, I decided. You had to be the nude girl. You had to sparkle. You had to corsicate. You had to bounce like the phantom cheerleader in the vault of every man's memory. Your skin had to be oiled to reflect the purple strobes. Your hair had to be coaxed in a voluminous Nashville tangle. You had to possess the vein and make the puppet rise. You had to make the average man's wife look like one of Van Gogh's potato-noshing peasants by comparison. Coarse, earthly, plain. It was, I realized, a tall order. Later that night, Johnny and I shared cocktails and schemes at our haunt of choice, a cozy bowling alley called Texatonka, where Jaeger-pounding jocks peacefully coexisted with local eccentrics. I could have done better, I confessed. I mean, I saw girls who were going home with 10 times the money I made. It was your first night, Johnny reasoned, nursing dregs of a dirty vodka martini. You can't expect to make $1,000 right away. I looked at it all wrong, I said. The other girls were pornographic. I thought I was kind of cute, but I must have been kidding myself. I've got to come in and watch you work.
We also talk about, I wanted to just mention, just really briefly, Johnny's built up as like this fucking paragon of cool masculinity, but he drinks a dirty vodka martini, which made me laugh. Anyway.
I want to point at that, and I want to point at, who goes to a fucking bowling alley and orders a dirty vodka martini?
Well, they do because they're ironic as fuck. It's mentioned earlier in the book that that's like their haunt because of that interaction.
The Texatonka is like 30 minutes away from Minneapolis, too, so they really got out of their way to go there.
Holy shit.
That's interesting. Other thing that I would like to kind of push on just a tiny bit. So I did read her Wikipedia page. That is exactly as much research as I did. She divorced him not long after this book came out, which is hilarious because if you read carefully about halfway through the book, through the first 50% of the book, he's always described in the present tense, like Johnny is a great
right.
man. Johnny is a good father. And then about halfway through the book, he starts being described in the past tense.
Whoa, yeah, you're totally right, and that didn't even click with me.
Yeah, but he's also in like some kind of folk psych band, which is hilarious because I can't not, especially after you're reading Lemon, I can't not picture him as like the, freak folk.
As Devendra Barnhart, basically.
Well, no, he's the freak folk Rob Zombie.
Yeah. Oh shit.
He's like,
what a horrible thought.
I'd love to see you strip for other men,
Wait.
baby.
So we got a crescendo here. So the crescendo. So Johnny says, "I've got to come in and watch you work." Johnny insisted. I bet you're spectacular. You've got something special going on that they don't have. You're rock and roll, man. Pure rock and roll. You're tops. Tops. Darling, I insisted, employing my favorite term of endearment for the boy. You'll be the ruin of me. I know how lucky I was to have a guy like him. He made me feel like my whole ass for hire scheme was clean, sexy fun. I needed his levity in order to continue because the reality of Sheiks, that's the strip club, was like being locked in a humidor with 1,000 grasping zombies. Johnny's idealism fueled my one-woman muscle car, made me want to keep mowing down the undead and raiding their wallets. Vroom, baby.
Holy shit. Okay, when you read it like this, I hadn't realized like how much this has in common with like a noir, like a Raymond Chandler, when people are communicating with each other. It's all like, "You're tops, baby. You're the best in the biz. Stick with me. We're going places." It's like really, people don't talk like that. Anyway.
Just drink tons.
Yeah. I just drink tons, baby.
And she does actually take up smoking in the course of the book.
Of course she does.
Because it's edgy.
Yeah. I'd like to go next, if you don't mind.
Please do it.
I'm going to read a little section here where our author describes her first night working at a peep show booth and the Post-it notes that were written about protocol by her non-white boss, which this is important, as you will see by the way that she decides to characterize the writing. So here we go. Harsh fluorescent light fixtures surrounded the front display window. Compared to the ambient subterranean darkness of strip clubs, this grocery store lighting was molto unflattering, especially considering I'd be displayed like a veal chop for all to see. I noticed a boldly printed note taped beneath the window, a transcript of the memo, punctuation and spelling preserved. All caps. "To whom it may concern, I want these lights on all the time. I don't care how they make. You look, or if you're getting a headache, if I find them turned off, you'll receive a written warning. And oh yes, I will write you up for some dumb shit like the lights being on. Try me. Any questions?" It was a long way from the scooter writing copywriters at the ad agency. Yeah. So
I want to know. I would love to read like the similar book. Like if she could write another book that's about the ad agency, that would be terrific because that would also be like completely cliche written. Like everyone would be on a Segway all the time.
Yeah.
Like they would just like all have like Yoni Eve masks that they would wear.
Yeah. Let's talk outside the box about some synergy. Like that kind of shit.
Hey, how are you guys' brands doing?
Pretty good.
Right on. Okay, so here's my dramatic reading. I fear and feel that it pales in comparison, but perhaps you'll indulge me.
Absolutely.
That winter, I dubbed Minneapolis the White City because the world around me looked like a blank answer bubble on a standardized test. I didn't know I was destined to make my mark heavy and dark, and that Satan was my exam proctor.
Holy shit, I forgot about that.
So I want to say two things about that. First, I loved that joke when The Simpsons made it.
That's true, yes.
Number two, this exact thing happens like maybe 5 or 6 times in the book where she locks in on like a metaphor and just doesn't let it go for a couple of paragraphs.
Yeah.
Or a couple of sentences anyway. And it's one of those ones where it becomes really obvious that she's just like writing to amuse herself and not actually trying to capture anything or say anything.
The one thing that also really kind of really epitomizes in a lot of ways, I think, too, is just kind of the overimportance that she ascribes to her own banal comings and goings.
Oh.
And that, like, you read this book and she's like, I left my mark hard on fucking Minneapolis. If you went back to any of those clubs that she mentions in the book, if they actually existed, which I'm sure they don't.
They do.
I guarantee
all these clubs exist.
Oh, okay. Well, I guarantee you that nobody who works there would remember anything about her.
no. Like-
You know, it seems like she drifted in and out of people's lives, but in her mind, she's there like blazing a fucking trail.
Or one or two would remember her as like, oh yeah, that tourist. She was really condescending.
that one lady with the really bad attitude.
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. That shit just jumped out to me too, just kind of as being.
I suspect if there is one phrase that would recur in people who know Diablo Cody, it would be, acts like her shit don't stink.
Yeah. I read a book, and I'm not going to recommend this, so I'll mention this now, by Jeffrey Numberg, who's a linguist. He's done a lot of stuff on NPR. He wrote a book called The History, I think it's just called Asshole.
Yeah.
And it's about the history of the term asshole and what it means and what it develops as. And the point that he makes throughout it is that an asshole is a very specific type of a person that you wouldn't like, and that a lot of it is summed up to this kind of blithe self-regard of just being like, I am the center of the universe, and that's what makes an asshole. It's the person who, if there's a huge line at the airport, will cut in front of everyone else to tell the person at the front that they have a fucking frequent flyers card, you know? And that is the vibe I got through this book more than anything else.
That was a point that I was super excited to hit, was that, like, you know, because I like this podcast. I've listened to this podcast, and there's been a number of episodes that are about male assholes. Like self-involved male assholes who do their male thing, who victimize the women around them. And you know, to entertaining effect, and this is a female asshole.
Yeah.
No, it totally is, and it really, I think, just kind of fits into that very like specific definition of assholery, where it is like, I'm the center of the universe, everyone else is here for my entertainment, like yada yada. So I think that's kind of our take on this book. I would say don't read it, but
extremely don't read it.
But rolling from that into some more positive vibes, I think it's probably time for us to talk about things we did like. So, Lemon, do you have anything that you would suggest to our listeners if they want to get this bad taste out of their mouth?
I would actually suggest the thing that made me that I wanted to go back and read again after this. You know, like there's a whole bunch of like stripper memoirs. I don't know if any of them are good. Maybe some of them are. That's not up to me to decide. That's up to you to read those fucking things. But what it actually made me hunger for was the books, the two main books by Legs McNeil.
Interesting.
Legs McNeil wrote a book called Please Kill Me, which is about punk, you know, the punk movement in its inception, which is terrific. And then he wrote another book a little bit more on point for this, which I believe is called The Other Hollywood. Yeah, The Other Hollywood. And that's about kind of like a timeline of the sex industry, or the porno industry, the people who make porn, and the stories are like meticulously sourced, like incredibly like moving and interesting, and also, I mean, just completely breakneck. Like in both of those Leg McNeil's books, like, things are happening on every page that are stunning, that are things that I have never experienced in my life, and recounted with like such a great vigor that I would appreciate. Yeah, read either of those. Those are really good.
No, that's cool. Do you mind if I go next, Chris?
Do it.
I just wanted to recommend, this has very little to do with the book itself, but was just brought into sharp relief because of one of the earlier passages we read, in that Kim Gordon, the bass player from Sonic Youth, has recently released an autobiography called Girl in a Band. I thought it honestly is one of the coolest pieces of rock and roll writing I've read in a while. I definitely recommend reading it if you're a Sonic Youth fan. Even if you're not, I think there's a lot of cool stuff in there. I would say my one complaint is that a lot of times it kind of revolves pretty heavily heavily around her relationship and the aftermath of the breakup of her and Thurston Moore, who was her husband for many years and another member of Sonic Youth. But on the other hand, this is a Kim Gordon autobiography, and it's not a book about Sonic Youth. So it's like all that stuff is still pretty cool. Like, I don't know. It's kind of rare for me to read a rock autobiography where I feel like you really get a chance to go beyond the persona and kind of beyond the veil. And Kim Gordon has always kind of had this conception of being very aloof and impenetrable, so it's kind of cool to hear her thoughts about things that you've wondered this whole time. And read that. That's pretty much all I could think of, just because she was mentioned in this book. So
I would imagine she's a good writer. I like her.
It's great. I mean, it's really, really enjoyable. Also, the audiobook, she narrates herself, and
no way.
You know, she stumbles a little bit because she's not professional, which I could completely understand, but it's very, very cool. It's really raw. It's worth checking out for sure.
Super cool. So if you want to read something that I would recommend about this kind of industry from the point of view of somebody who actually has credibility and demonstrable firsthand experience and self-awareness and awareness of others and good politics, I would recommend a book called Playing the Whore by Melissa Gira Grant, who is just a super-duper smart person who has been committed to the industry and to adjacent industries for a very, very long time. So that would be my recommendation for the week.
Cool. One thing, we normally read a lot of letters here. I think in this case, we're running super late, so we should probably just read one letter that is very relevant.
A, letter B, letter C, letter D, letter E, letter F, letter G, letter, got a lot of letters.
Let me check. I've got a number that I wanted to get into. Well, we can save those for the next time. I will say right now, though, we're getting an incredible number of really amazing recommendations and, more importantly, or as importantly, descriptions of those recommendations that are absolutely fucking killing me. So keep those coming. They are ultra ridiculous. I think I'm going to go with this one just because it has 2 hilarious paragraphs in it. So this is from Owl No Last Name.
Hello, Owl.
Yeah. Since you asked, I mostly look at beetle dicks under a microscope while listening to I Don't Even Own a Television. For science.
I will kiss the girl from Venus. 3 people out there are cheering so hard right now, and everyone else is like, what's going on? All right, sorry, continue.
And so you'll see why I read this now. P.S. In your Killing Floor episode, a listener wrote in to tell you about a super gross, quote, edgy book they read called Do Unto Others. The description they gave sounded familiar, and I quickly realized that was because another podcast about terrible writing, the F+, once did a live reading of part of that book in a bar. And from the sounds of it, nearly started a riot. If you're curious, the episode is here, and the part in question starts 48:25 in. I think this may be proof that there is such a thing as a book too awful, even for I don't even know what to tell you.
No. Do not touch that. Do not touch that book. So my podcast, we have a reader with a very nice voice, a voice that seems like it could never cause you harm. And he read a book by a student of Piers Anthony.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Yeah, exactly. That is like that. It broke the room in half. like we were doing this live, and that moment where you can see like the room get ripped apart. At one point on stage, I ripped up the book and threw it into pieces. Do not read that book. Do not read that book.
I think this is probably as good a point as any as to mention. Lemon, how would people keep in abreast of what's going on with the F+ if they'd like to?
Just thefpl.us. We've been going for 6 years at this point. I don't know how to pitch it. Terrible Things Read with Enthusiasm. That's what we do.
It's great.
That's a great tagline.
It's an awesome show, and everyone should check it out for sure. If you want to keep in touch with us, it's I don't even own a television at gmail.com. We're also on Twitter and Facebook at IDEOTVpod. So please hit us up. Let us know what's going on. We will read more letters next week when we aren't quite as absorbed in a ranting session about Diablo Cody.
And between now and then, I can personally confirm that I will get strange looks giggling at my desk and cackling elsewhere, staring at my phone at emails that are coming in. So keep them coming.
Yes, please. And Lemon, thank you so much for being on. It's been great.
Definitely.
Thank you, guys.
All right, and to everyone at home, we will see you next time. Keep reading crap.
Woo! Except for the Peter Anthony book.
See a tip drill, point out. Where she at? Point out. Where she at? Point out. There she goes. See a tip drill, point out. Where she at? Point out. Where she at? Point out. There she goes. Throwing money in the air like we don't give a fuck. Looking for a